What is up, everybody? Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the PhDJ Podcast. We've got my friend here, Mike Walter. How are you, Mike?
I'm well, Joe. Thank you very much.
I introduced you like you were a guest.
That's okay, but we do have a guest, so let's
We do have a guest, yeah. So we have a guest today. If you're watching this on video, this is our new friend. We're just meeting for the first time. I've been following him online and on TikTok. Jason Alexander with Austin's Best DJs. He reached out to me.
And if you're not watching this on video, it's not that Jason Alexander.
Yeah. Yes.
We're not going to be spending 30 minutes on Seinfeld.
Exactly.
It would be I think I'm going to call this episode that interview with Jason, not that one.
Not that one. But Jason Alexander's here, and he DM'd me on Facebook a couple of weeks ago and said, hey, I've got a topic that I think, or some topics or information that I think would be good to put out to the DJs that listen to your show. What do you think about having me on? And I was like, dude, absolutely. So welcome, man. Welcome to the podcast.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Joe. Mike's a pleasure. I definitely follow you guys online as well, and y'all are doing great things. Joe, man, I can't keep up with everything you're doing. It's kind of
Neither can I. Neither can anybody, but it's just, I don't know, that's just the way I've always been, man. But yeah, so you listen to the show, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. And
Good.
I get you, man. I'm kind of the same way, and I have ADHD basically, and that's what makes me do all the different things that I do.
I think I have it, but I actually do finish things. You know what I mean? I am all over the place, but everything eventually gets done.
Yeah.
So sometimes out of order. Well, let's talk today, man. Like, what's the overall high-reaching topic that we're going to touch on, and then Mike and I will kind of jump in as two people that are, I don't want to say we're clueless to these types of events, but we could always use direction, and help. I've often said there's multiple episodes of this podcast, or when we do a Crate Hackers hackathon, where I'm like, worst Spanish DJ ever, worst Spanish music DJ ever, and I'm here to raise my hand and say I'm terrible. And I've got my 5 go-tos that I know are going to work, and then if it gets beyond that, I'm like, the client is really going to need to jump in here. You know what I mean?
Help me out.
And help me out. All right. So let's talk about it, Jason. What's going on? Tell us what you guys do. Tell us how you can help the listeners be better.
Absolutely. So, I think the focus overall for me was to really put it on people's radar, right? I'm here in Austin, Texas, and we have a pretty large Latino population in Texas, as you know, and the 2020 census just came out, and basically all of the Southwest now, the biggest minority population is Latino people or Latinx people, whichever you prefer. I know Mike had asked about that.
Yeah.
Do you want to just spend a minute on that? Which is there? First of all, is either term offensive at this point, or they're interchangeable?
Interchangeable.
Okay.
So Latinx is kind of the newer term. A lot of people don't use it at this point. It's a neutral term, is what it is. It's gender neutral. Latino is male, Latina female, and Latinx is going to be.
I remember that from my 2 years of high school Spanish. I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know Latinx. Right. This is new to me as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just kind of. I think it's more in the academic circles.
Okay.
Is what it is. So it's not going to be mainstream. Most people just say Hispanic or Latino mostly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I've been using Latinx more just because it's neutral.
And is calling the music Latin music, is that still acceptable as well?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, it depends on what you're referring to, right? With Spanish, there's so many genres. That's the thing is there's dozens of genres within the Spanish category. Latin is going to be more, in my mind, I see it more as going to be like salsa, merengue, things like that. There's even from Peru and punta music. There's all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah, I learned this the hard way several years ago. I was doing a corporate event, probably 2,000 people, and maybe, let's say a tenth. Let's say 200 of the 2,000 people at this tech event were from Spanish-speaking countries.
Yeah.
Again, everything from Mexico to Brazil to, and Mexicans don't like the same thing as Brazilians.
Yeah.
Portuguese-speaking countries don't like it. Like, it was like, play Anita. Okay, I'd play that. No, not that. Play Mark Anthony. Oh, no, not that. Play bachata. No, not that. And I was like, oh man, they wore me out that night. And it's, all the songs obviously in Spanish. My Spanish is okay, not great. So it's this all night. Phone in my face, phone in my face, phone in my face. And I'm like, oh my, dude, I was exhausted by the end of that event. And keep in mind, there's 1,800 other people there that want to hear Brick House or Black Eyed Peas or, whatever the top 40 was. It was the most exhausting event of my life. And I think I went into it not knowing about that 200 of the 2,000 people.
Yeah.
How passionate they were going to be for their music.
Oh man. Yeah. That's very true. Even now with the events that I do, that we do as a team, that's still the case, man. They really want to hear what they want to hear. And
that's right. Be prepared.
You know it, I think. And that's the hard part. And so here I'm going to talk about why, number one, to put it on your radar, why you should think about these events. And then number two, how to get by, right? How you can do it and be successful at it. Because a lot of people shy away from it and they're like, oh, I don't do that. I don't know that music, so I'm going to stay away, which makes sense. But I can tell you how to get by and how you can succeed at these events.
Man, we're going to let you speak. Roll on.
All right. So a little bit about me real quick. Been a long time DJ, been doing it since I was a kid, learned when I was 13 and been doing it ever since. Academic background, I have 2 master's degrees, one in education, one in public affairs. And my DJ experience has just been with clubs, bars, radio, had my own radio show for a couple of years, concerts, festivals, you name it. I even did my own concerts, owned my own nightclub for a little while. So I've kind of been around, right? And what I'm doing currently is running Austin's Best DJs and photo booths. It's going on 10 years now next year. Nice. It's crazy.
Good for you, man.
Also do radio DJ drops. That's our site as well. And we make, drops and commercials and things like that. And Spanish comes in handy right here. I get a lot of Spanish language radio reaching out to me for their commercials and stuff. So I do that as well. And do a lot of stuff, right? So I'm like I said, like Joe, but definitely not doing as much as you are, man. But I do quite a bit of things.
I do have this question. Jason Alexander is the most non-Hispanic name I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, man, I was like, maybe this guy's going to come on. And I'm like, I hear a little bit of your accent and you definitely got a better tan than I do. So tell us, give us just a quick history on this. I'm more interested in this than anything. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it makes sense. So Rubio actually is my last name. Okay. So Alexander is my middle name. Most people in these circles know me through my middle name. So that's why, right?
Okay. All right.
That's a lot of the writings that I've done. All of the stuff is through first and middle name.
Rubio makes a lot of sense. Clarified. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Moving on. Keep going.
Not a problem. And so, things to think about is that, again, like I mentioned with the 2020 census, the demographics are changing.
Yeah.
I wish I could show you the map, but, I have a map basically, and it shows the predominant minorities all over the U.S. And it's green for Hispanic or Latino, Latinx, all over. It's changing. They're the predominant minority group throughout. In the last 10 years, they've been the fastest growing group, right? Since the last census, it grew 23% since 2010, and basically accounted for over half of the U.S. population growth in the last 10 years, which is insane. I think they've always been here, though. I think we as a people have always been here. It's just that the census changed. Before, whether you guys know it or not, Hispanics are considered white race. And so there was no ethnicity on there. And so they added that to 2020. Gotcha. And I think that's what it is. And so they're like, oh, well, here's a way to better identify people. Wow, all these people are here now. I think they've always been here.
Right. I got you.
But anyway, that's what's going on. And I'm going to blow your mind here with this last stat. I got a lot of stats because people need to really understand this. So every 30 seconds, a Latino in the U.S. turns 18. Every 30 seconds.
Wow.
So that means sweet 15s, 3 years before that, sweet 16s, graduations, and later weddings, baby showers, right? And that's our field, right? And that's what we need to pay attention to. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, even the stats on the census are pretty much blowing me away. You know what I mean? And again, I mean, this goes back, God, I can't remember when I got out of college. I mean, I took as much high school Spanish as I could. Even when I went to Carolina, kept taking Spanish. Even now, having kids that are teenagers, please, I know they offer Chinese at your school. I know they offer maybe they
French
still
and
even offer
German
French,
and everything else.
I'm like, please, guys, please,
absolutely.
take Spanish. I know your friends are in this class, but I'm telling you, this is going to be useful. If you are going to the world, the job market in 6-7 years, when you're 20 some years old, you will thank me for this.
Just for riding the New York City subway system, because half of the ads are in Spanish.
Absolutely.
I sit there and I go, I'm like, I know it's been 30 years.
You remember? Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's one of the most dominant languages in the world. So
Jason, for somebody like us who I do my best to stay on top of, like, what's the hot merengue, what's the hot bachata, do you have a suggestion for where Joe and I and our listeners could find that information?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to get to that. So a couple of more things really quick before that. I'm going to tell you exactly
more stats. Okay.
The interracial marriages, 42% are going to be with a Hispanic or Latinx partner. So 42% of interracial marriages right now that are happening, right? So almost half. And so it's super important. And so here's what I'm going to get to, right? So what does all that mean? Why does this matter? You've got to start getting acquainted with these events and the music. And most people say, well, I don't know Spanish or Spanish music. You don't have to. You don't have to. You can prepare for this event, whether it's a wedding or a quinceañera, even prom, whatever it is that you guys do. You can basically prepare ahead of time. I'm not sure what your systems are like, but for us, we have a music selection document that we send our clients. They select all the different genres there. At the bottom of that, they can put must play songs, favorite artist, do not play songs, all of that. And so you're going to get an idea as to what they want. And if it's Spanish dominant, we have percentages on there too. So if it says cumbia is a type of Spanish, right? 50%, I'm like, okay, they want a lot of this. And so I'm going to contact them before the event and say, okay, I noticed you marked 50%. What does that look like to you? Give me some artists, give me some song titles. And I have them send me as much as possible. Right. And so they can literally send me one song for every, the entire time if they want. They want to send me 40 songs for 2 hours. Fine, send it. Right. Because I'm going to know exactly how to please them. And so that's what you can do for these events is ask up front before the event, what are all the things you want to hear? And then I make sure and I gather those songs, I'll go on Spotify. There's one way to do it. And I'll look up that artist and I'll get their top 5 songs that are most downloaded.
I like that.
So that's something you can do as well. YouTube also, I'll go and make sure I have those top songs from them that are most downloaded. And that helps me out a lot because, I might be of this descent, but man, I couldn't tell you all.
You can't keep up with everything. Yeah. I mean, nobody can. Yeah.
So while we're talking about specific cumbias or bachatas or whatever, just a quick shout out to Promo Only, which I have used forever. They have a number of Latin series, and they will identify the song as is it reggaeton, is it bachata, is it salsa, which is great. But going back to my point, you can't just, if somebody comes up to me at a party and says play a salsa, I can't just play any old salsa. What I want to do is play one of the hottest salsas that I can find. So do you have a suggestion for that? Or are you basically just saying you have to rely on the client to give you that information?
I try to meet with the client first just so I know what they love. But I think my go-tos would be what's most popular, right? There's certain staples of salsa that I would go to. Depends on their age too, right? If they're younger or they're older. Mark Anthony is one. Everybody knows Mark Anthony's salsa music, right? And so that's something I would immediately go to. An older one that everyone still knows today, Celia Cruz.
I knew it. I was going to say, I know. Yeah, I'm good.
You got to play it, right? If they want salsa, it has to be in there. Those two are always going to be my go-to.
I think I feel sometimes though, like I'm not touching the younger generation. Like the older generation's going, hey, thanks for throwing us the old salsa. But is the younger generation going, oh, this old guy, all he's got is old stuff?
So Mark Anthony's newer salsa, right? He's got newer music out. Okay. He puts out music still today. Celia Cruz obviously doesn't. She's dead. Right. But there are
stop you from putting out new music.
Right.
Yeah. But I think the younger generation doesn't really ask for salsa, right? They tend to not ask for that. They're going to ask for the reggaeton music.
Right.
They're going to ask for the bachata, like you mentioned. They're going to ask for the kind of dancey stuff that's out on the radio right now. And so that's something else I'll do is I'll go to our local Latin radio station, look at what they're playing, their top 10 or top 20 songs. And I'll make sure I have all of those as well. And I'll even take screenshots of them. And so if I, forget that night, I'm like, dang, what else do I play? What do I need to do? I'll just go to those screenshots real quick. Oh yeah, let me throw this song in. It'll work. Right. And that's what I do as well. So take screenshots, create those playlists, and I have all my playlists organized, right? So it'll say top 50 cumbia, top 50 bachata, top 50 everything, 90s, 2000s, 2000. I have all of that organized. And so that I know those are my go-tos. Those are the most downloaded stuff. People are going to know it. And so that's one way you can succeed doing that.
Joe, just a quick aside. I know you're involved with Crate Hackers. Does Crate Hackers have crates for Latin music, for salsas? And okay.
Absolutely.
And are they curated by somebody who is really in the know in the Latin world? Not in other words, not guys like you.
Not me. Yeah, okay, no, not me. Good. Mike Villa does a lot of that stuff. He works with a guy, Gabriel Gazzaro, out in.
Ooh, very nice roll of the R.
Thank you. I don't even think he says it like that, but whenever I see him, I have.
For a guy who pronounces 10 like 10, I did not expect that of you. Very well done.
You guys keep talking. I need to run a key out. Somebody keeps knocking on my door.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Right. Y'all keep going.
So, Jason, I'm going to ask you a question about quinceañeras. First of all, just a quick translation. That is the 15th birthday party?
Yeah, 15th birthday party, similar to a bar mitzvah. Okay. Basically, it's a coming of age of a female, usually Hispanic or Latinx descent. There are male versions of it. Quinceañero is the male version of it. You don't see too many of those, but they do exist. They do happen. Big party, basically. What's interesting about those is that you're definitely going to have to play a lot of Spanish music, but also a lot of top 40 music is what you'll play.
Right, because think about this 15-year-old girl is going to school, and she's probably not exclusively hanging out with Latinos. She's, so it makes sense that it would be a mixed demographic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But
and are there certain specific traditions that happen at a quinceañera that we should be aware of?
Absolutely. So if you're going to get into these, there are a lot of traditions that they do every single time. There's ceremonies that happen, and it probably takes maybe 20, 30 minutes to get through all of them. And it's mostly you emceeing. You're going to have to MC these and talk about them. There's an introduction that happens of everybody. Kind of like if you're doing the wedding party, but this is the quinceañera party, right? This is a court, and they all get introduced. It's a big deal, right? They do these special dances. You'll have to introduce every moment that happens. A lot of them prefer bilingual.
Is there a candle lighting like there is at a bar mitzvah? Are we bringing people up to light candles?
No, there's not. Okay. But there are other traditions that happen, right? So there's the father-daughter dance that happens, and then there's this gift exchange, right? So they have a crown that they wear. It's like, they're a princess for the day. They do what's called a last doll. And so I guess sort of like a candlelight, they give the person who's celebrating a doll, and it's like their last childhood thing that they get, right?
Oh, that's cute.
Okay. They do, gifts like a rosary. A lot of them are Catholic. Right. They will do, a Bible, things like that. Lots of gifts happen. And the very last thing to show the significance of changing from child to adult is the changing of the shoes. And so they will get supposed to be their first pair of high heels during this time to show that they're now a woman, right? And so they have these fancy shoes that they bring out on this platter, right? And, even got a glass case over it, give it to the person, and they'll change the shoes. The dad will help change the shoes, and then they do their father-daughter dance.
Very cool. And is there specific music? Like, do you play anything specific when they're bringing out these shoes?
I do, I do talk to them ahead of time, and we have this whole timeline that exists, and it says every single moment, what song do you want us to play? So we allow them to do it.
Okay. So it's sort of like bridal party introductions where the couple or the family in this case can pick it out if they want.
They can pick the songs. If they say, most of them don't pick a song, it's background anyway. You're not really the focus. And so I just put instrumental music on is what I do.
Right. And then when we do Sweet 16s, one of our biggest questions to the client is this specifically for the 16-year-old girl and her friends, or are there a lot of adults? Because some Sweet 16s are pretty much like a school dance. Yeah. Some of them you have 50-50 family versus. Mm-hmm. So is that a common thing at quinceañeras? Are there a lot of adults, and are you playing to multiple generations, or are you pretty much specifically playing for the kids?
It depends on their vision, but yes, there's going to be a lot of adults, a lot of kids. we do ask ahead of time and say, okay, what is the focus here? What do you want us to play mainly? And again, they'll check off those genres that we have, and they'll tell us this is for her. So you play whatever they want. So I'll know it's going to be top 40 heavy and maybe some newer like reggaeton or whatever. But if it's a lot of times, I would say over half the time, the adults are like, we want to hear music too. We want to dance too. So then I know I really have to mix it up. And so it's constantly, throwing a couple of sets in of this and then changing it for the younger people and changing it back for the older people. It's kind of all night long. You're moving stuff around.
Right. My experience with the Latin community is you guys and gals know how to party. And that's what you started talking. You threw a lot of stats out for our listeners and a great reason why we shouldn't ignore Latinx parties and everything else. And I just want to add one more to that. If we have any listener who is basically saying, yeah, I don't usually do Latin parties, you are missing out on some of the greatest parties. Spanish people, Latin people, you guys love to celebrate. You love to dance.
Yeah.
And not just my experience is not just your ethnic music either. You will pretty much dance to pretty much anything. And it's one of the reasons why I love, if I see my bride is from Puerto Rico or my groom is Spanish or whatever, I go, yes. I mean, I know I'm making an assumption, but I go, it's going to be a great gig, Yeah,
absolutely. They shut the place down, man. They'll dance all night long.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So let me go back to, what does it all mean, right? So we talked about people say, I don't know Spanish, right? I've gotten multiple calls from clients every week that say, hey, do you play Spanish? I'm like, yeah. Like, oh, thank God. I've called several other
Well, that's because your name is Jason Alexander. If your name was what did you say, Rubio?
Jason Rubio.
Then people wouldn't ask that question.
Well, no, they just call the business, right? It's under Austin's business.
Oh, right. That's right. Okay.
But they'll just ask and we'll say, yeah, absolutely. We're in Austin, Texas. What do you mean? They're like, oh, well, we called 4 other places.
Wow.
All of them said no, they don't.
And they said no. Wow.
Interesting.
And I was surprised.
People are leaving money on the table, man. We got to talk.
That's more for you.
People.
More for
you. Crazy.
Exactly. And so, you don't have to really know the entire library. No one can.
Yeah.
I would say, prepare, like I said, get with the clients, find out what they want. But I think a lot of times they do. And what scares people away is bilingual. They're like, we want a bilingual MC. And people are like, oh, I can't do it. Right. So my suggestion is you can try to get through it with the basic announcements. So you're just going to have to do father, daughter.
But you got to be honest with your client up front. Say, look, I don't speak Spanish. I can make some Spanish announcements, but you can't say I'm bilingual and then show up and know 3 words.
Right. And so we have a timeline that's English.
I'm just going to say muy caliente all night long.
Yeah, you could try to muddle through it, right? But what I suggest is just hiring someone who does. Hire an MC.
Absolutely, man.
Just hire them out there and pay them to do the announcements. They'll be done pretty much in the first hour.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's back to DJing. So that's one way you can get through it.
Sure.
And again, it's minimal stuff. They don't expect you to translate speeches or anything like that. I always ask, though, I say, do you need me to only do announcements? What is it you need? Because I'm not even 100% fluent, know? And so they'll say, oh, no, just the announcements. Because every now and then they'll be like, oh, we want to host a game and we want to do this, want to do that. I'm like, nah, I can't do all that.
And similar to the music having different genres and, bachatas, there's not just one Latin language. Spanish is different from Mexican, is different, right? So, I mean, it's not like you know one language and then know it all, correct?
I mean, Spanish in general is Spanish. There are different dialects, but for the most part, if you know Spanish generally, as long as it's not something you grew up like talking and you never studied it, if you studied it at any point, you're going to be fine.
You'll be able to. Okay. All right.
People may have different dialects and like drop off certain letters like S's, and with Cuban people tend to drop off the S a lot.
Right.
But otherwise, you can get by. I mean,
I never know the difference between a dialect and a completely separate language. Like that always confuses me. When does a dialect become so extreme that it's a separate language? But okay, so thank you for informing me of that. Cool.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say, was just that, these things are really now in our face, man. And if you want to make more money, start getting familiar with these events, and hire some Spanish speaking MCs if you can, or DJs that know this genre or these genres, because you're going to make a lot more money doing that.
I couldn't agree more, man. And, as much as Mike and I think it would make for better broadcasting or better podcasts if we disagreed every day. Mike and I are the exact same when it comes to the all-encompassing DJ. I don't care if you're from Mexico, Mars. I don't care if you're gay, straight, black, white.
Talent
Mike's
is
the same
talent.
way. We want to make memories, play parties, rock dance floors, and make memories.
But I will say this, as the owner of a multi-op company, I don't have a Spanish-speaking DJ on staff, and I wish I did. I have
I'm
beat
lucky.
the bushes trying to find a bilingual MC. And if one ever fell in my lap, I would fast track that guy or gal to headlining status because we get asked that question on a fairly regular basis, not all the time, but you know, and we answer just like you suggested, Jason. We can play the music for you. I don't have a Spanish speaking DJ, unfortunately.
Right.
This guy, Rich Rivera, that works for me, has been gold. He's super talented, such a nice guy, good on the mic, bilingual, great DJ. Like he was a godsend, really. Just fell in my lap.
Nice.
So, man, this is informative, man.
How can our listeners connect with you, Jason?
They can email me. They can go to our website. It's just, if you just Google Austin's Best DJs, we come up, and just contact me. Happy to help. I have these forms if you guys want them, you know, with quinceañeras and all the different ceremonies that happen. Even I have bilingual forms too that says, this is how you say father, daughter in English. This is how you say it in Spanish. Everything is all written out.
Are you offering those forms for our listeners?
Sure. Yeah. If they want to check them out.
Instead of a bunch of people contacting you then about that, why don't you send those to us and we'll make them available when we drop this podcast?
Yeah.
Just so you don't have a bunch of people. Yeah.
That's super helpful. That's super
awesome.
helpful.
Yes,
Jason.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's a great giveaway for our
much
audience.
appreciated, man. Thanks for being on. Just period, man. Thanks for reaching out. I mean, again, anyone listening to this, if you have something that Mike and I haven't talked about, which probably means we don't know a lot about it, reach out to us. We would love to have you on. We love having guests on. It takes the pressure off of us coming up with a brilliant episode every single week after 280 something like that.
Coming up on 5 years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So please reach out if you have something to share, just like Jason did, and he simply DM me on Facebook, and you can do the same to me or Mike, and kind of pitch your topic, and we would love to have you on as a guest. So thank you, Jason Alexander Rubio, for being on today.
You're welcome.
I
was only in Austin once. I got to get back down there sometime.
City.
It was a great city. I only spent like 3 days down there, but I loved it. The music vibe is it just permeates the whole city. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Glad to be here, guys. If you don't mind, I'm going to take a quick photo of you guys here.
Let's do it.
Grab it.
All right. So just to say hello. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Pleasure.
All right.
See you, buddy. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.